Swift scholars! Sometimes user interfaces get complicated. This is the case with our Snacktacular app. It's going to get even more complicated as we add a review section at the bottom of each spot that we track in our app. You see down here we've got a table view with a cell that will hold each review. Now just look at the user interface on the main storyboard. We're showing it rendered on the very small first generation iPhone SE. Now this won't even hold 2 full table view cells on the screen. And if we had to scroll in the tiny space, it's a bad user experience. Now we can improve this without sacrificing what the user has access to in a single screen. From the user's perspective, they're likely either to be looking at restaurant info, the name, address, map, or they're looking at reviews. So instead of scrolling inside this tiny table view, let's scroll the whole interface. And we can do this by using table view headers. This is super simple to implement in an app. Let's learn how to do it. Now this diagram shows just what we're about to do. The purple shows the table view. Now normally with dynamic table views, we focus just on the part with the prototype cells. But here, there's a table view header. That's this light blue square. Now let's look inside the document outline. There's the table view, that's everything in the purple outline. Then inside the table view, there's the view. Now see, it's indented under the table view. That means it's inside of the table view, and it has all the stuff that we've already created in it. The name field, the address field, collection view, map view, all that stuff, it's already inside of the view. And to make it clear that this is all part of the header, it's also inside of a lighter blue outline that I put right here in the document outline. And it's not until you get to the end of all the stuff that's in the view that you see the table view cell. Now we're going to refer to ours as review cell. That's the stuff in red when you see it on the main storyboard. I didn't outline it in red in the document outline since I'm just showing it as one line. But this top part here, it's called the header. It doesn't repeat, but it will scroll with the entire area inside the table view itself. Now you can also get a footer. We'll show that in a future video as part of a special technique we use to prevent ghost cells from showing up at the bottom of a table view. But for now, we'll just work with the header. So these images to the right show what our app will look like when it's getting closer to being done. You can see that we have images in the collection view. We haven't done that yet. But if you scroll, the whole table view moves as one. So the header scrolls away and you can see all of these dynamic cells down below. This is a nice effect. Let's do it. So in Snacktacular, I'm on the main storyboard and I'm inside of the Spot Detail View Controller. Now the view that we're going to be concentrating on is this one here, right below the safe area. That's the one that holds all these different user interface elements we've already added. Restaurant name, address, map, these buttons down here. Well, to take this whole view with all of the interface elements inside of it, first I'll click the exposure triangle next to the view so that it points to the right. That'll hide all of the elements inside the view in the document view so that we don't see them. It'll make the view easier to work with. Then we'll head up to the library, click the plus sign, search for table view, drag a table view out and drop it below. I don't want it to touch any of the sides of the view controller. I don't want it to touch the bottom toolbar. It shouldn't overlap with this view above it. So I'll just plop it right here. So it's just this tiny little guy that's not touching any edges. Now then I'll head over to the attributes inspector, and with the table view selected, I'll set the number of prototype cells to 1. Then I'll click on the table view cell. I know I've clicked it right because it says table view cell in the attributes inspector. And I'll change the selection to none as well. This just gets rid of any lingering selection indicator after the cell has been clicked. We don't want the cell to remain highlighted after it's been selected. Now I'm going to go over to the document outline and I'm going to click on the view, and with my mouse button held down I'm going to drag the view until it's under the table view and just above the table view cell. So that means it's inside of the table view itself, and then I'll release. That's all I need to do to position the view as the table view's header. Super simple. Just make sure that when you're dragging it into the right place, you take your time and you position it just right. Now let's constrain this table view so that it looks good. So with the table view selected over in the document outline, I'm going to go down and select the Add New Constraints icon. I'm going to set these to 0, 0, 0, and 0, top, left, right, and bottom, add 4 constraints, and bingo! This looks magnificent. Now you don't need to, but if you want, you can do a super quick build and run. If I click on El Pelon here, I can see that we've done nothing with our table view. We've got no table view code in here, but if you sort of tug at the view controller, you can see the entire view controller is moving. The layout itself looks good, gives you a hint of the things to come. Now here's a look at the user interface we're about to create. You can either pause, take a look at all these steps, and do it yourself. We've actually already completed the top half up through constrain the table view, top, left, right, and bottom, 0, 0, 0, and 0. I'll also describe each of these steps in complete detail as I complete them during the rest of this video. So back in our code, let's head back to the main storyboard and lay out our custom table view cell. Now let's add the first of our 5 image views that are going to hold our star ratings. So I'll click on plus to pull up the library, search for image view, click on image view and drag it over into the table view cell. It can be tricky when working in small spaces like this, so I'm just going to let it go right in the middle of the table view cell. You can tell the top and bottom of the image view extend way beyond the top and bottom of the table view cell, but the image view is inside the table view cell. Then with the image view selected, I'll click on the size inspector and I'll set X to 0, Y to 0, and width and height each to 15. We see this resizes to a nice small square. That's exactly what I want. Now click on the attributes inspector for the image view. Under image, I'm going to type in star, and then under the system images, I want to select this one that looks like an outlined star. So now our image shows an empty star. I'm just going to drag this image out so that it's indented a little bit from the top left of the cell. And with the image selected, set the content mode to aspect fill, and also set the tint to dark text color. Then with the image selected, I'm going to go down to add new constraints, and I'm going to set the height and the width to 15 points each. Add 2 constraints. Then I'll select the image view and press Command D to duplicate, then select 2 images, duplicate both of these, select and dupe one more, and now I've got 5 copies of the original image view, and roughly position them so that they're in a line with maybe a point or 2 in between. We'll set that in the stack view, but all the tops and the bottom should be aligned. Then if I click on my top star, which should be my leftmost star, and if I check the tag value in the attributes inspector, I can see that the tag is set to 0. Then I'll set the tags for each of the stars to the right of the previous one to 1, 2, 3, 4, so that I've got all of these stars tagged from 0 to 4, left to right. Then I'll draw a selection rectangle to make sure that I've selected all 5 of these images together. And go in the lower right hand corner, select the embed in icon and embed in view, stack view. With the stack view selected, I'll go to the attributes inspector and make sure that spacing is set to 1, and then I'll add constraints. The top will be 6, the left 8, and I'll set the width to 79 and the height to 15. Add 4 constraints. And now let's add our review title label. So we'll click on plus to open the library, find a label, drag it over and position it just to the left of our stack view with the 5 stars. We'll replace the default text that says label with the text title of review. I'll set the font to 16 point, keep the font as the system font, but set the style to semi-bold. Then I'll add new constraints. The top I'll set to 3, the left 8, the right 8, and the height 21. Add 4 constraints. Then let's add a single label below this that has a summary of the review. So I'll click on plus to bring up the library, drag a label over. I'll position that just under my stack view with the stars. I'll stretch it out end to end. Let's change the font to System Italics. A little strange, I would have thought that style would be italics, but the font is System Italic. Let's set the size to 14 points. Oh, and let's put some placeholder text in here. How about tasty and convenient? I especially liked that the food was edible. A big plus for me. Now let's set the constraints for this label. Now constrain the top 4, but make sure that that's constrained to the bottom of the stack view. So pull down, make sure stack view is selected. And if stack view wasn't selected, you'll have to type 4 in again. Then constrain the left 8, the right 8, and the height 14. Press add 4 constraints. And before we code this back up, I want to give this table view cell an identifier. Let's click back on our table view cell and under the attributes inspector, set the identifier. Instead of just calling this cell, why don't we call it review cell? Upper camel case, all one word. And the reason for that is we also have a cell in our collection view above this. Now that cell's also going to need an identifier. The collection view cell is going to have photos in it. We might call that photo cell, but we'll put that part off until later. Then let's create our IB outlet for the table view. So we need to get into assistant editor mode. So we'll click on spot detail view controller and option click on main storyboard. I'll close my attributes inspector, give us some more room. Then I'll control drag from table view in the document outline, place it just below my other IB outlets. I'll let go. I'll name this table view, lower camel case. Click connect, IB outlet created, and we're ready to start coding. So we'll click the X in main storyboard, we'll get back to the standard editor mode. Now in order to get some cells showing up so we can see how our table view scrolls with a header, let's create a bogus string array to hold, well, anything, just so that we can show some cells. What's inside the cells doesn't matter, so I'll say var lowercase reviews, colon, we'll eventually have a reviews class, but we'll put that off for now, just so that we can test our table view. Then we'll say bracket string bracket equals bracket, and for now, we'll just 2 strings. One will be in quotes tasty, comma, and then in quotes awful, close square bracket. Now to code the table view, you guys are old hands at this. Remember delegate data source, delegate data source. So we'll say in view did load table view dot delegate equals self, table view dot data source equals self. Then we'll scroll to the bottom and add the rest of the code in an extension. We'll say extension, this is spot detail view controller, table view delegate, press return, table view data source, press return, open and close curlies. Xcode recognizes you need required methods for one of these protocols. Do you want to add protocol stubs? Xcode stub me. Click that fix button. Xcode adds the outlines or stubs of the 2 required methods. Then write in our number of rows in section, we'll say return reviews.count. Then in our cell for row at, we'll say let cell equal tableview.dequeue reusable cell. Select the one with the identifier and the index path. Our identifier is going to be, remember what we called it, upper camel case review cell. Our index path is going to be lower camel case index path. And you know what? Since we just want a bunch of blank cells to show up, that's just right now for testing purposes. We'll just say return cell. We won't even worry about configuring the cell, but let's scroll up top and add more strings into this reviews array. This will give us a cell showing up for every string in the array. I'm going to highlight the strings inside, tasty and awful, then paste, 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 paste. That should be 14 strings altogether. It doesn't matter what's inside of them because we're not going to see them. Build and run. You can click on any spot because we don't have accurate review data. We just have those 14 strings inside of our reviews array. I'm going to click on Island Creek Oyster, and oh, we see a whole bunch of cells down below. I click down below here, hold down my mouse, and scroll up. Whoa, I see 14 of them in total, and I see this table view is scrolling with the header. That's exactly the effect that we want. Another advanced user interface technique. Swifter, you're getting your skills down. Hope you're feeling good. Keep at it. There's lots more to come.